Hello everyone, this is Leah Whitehorse from Law Astrology, and in this recording I'm going to be talking about the astrology of April 2023. So as we come into this month, of course, we have had these very big energetic shifts with Saturn moving into Pisces last month and of course Pluto going into Aquarius. That is very fresh, very new, and we're just in a process here of finding our feet with all of this. And also, as we come into the month, we still have the conjunction between Jupiter and Chiron in Aries. We've got a lot of Aries action, generally speaking, happening. But I particularly wanted to mention the fact that Jupiter conjunct Chiron will be in action right up until April the 25th. So they are in orb of a conjunction until that time. So in other words, this aspect is still in play. It's still there. We're still exploring the benefits of the healing process that we've been going through, the opportunities that arise from the healing process. And also perhaps at times we're finding that the wounds that we have, the pain or suffering that we've experienced sometimes seems to be magnified. And if so, this is because we need to learn from that pain, learn from these triggers. We're being taught a lot of lessons here about how to motivate ourselves, how to push ourselves forward, how to be more confident, how to be more independent, and how to reconnect with our inner fire. So this is Aries, after all, the first of all the signs. So we kind of need to put ourselves first, not negating everybody else, of course, but put ourselves first so that we can really understand what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are, and what else we can learn from the situation that we are in. Now, Mercury will leave this big lineup in Aries on the 3rd of April when it moves into the sign Taurus. Now, this is a very important ingress because later this month, Mercury is going to have a retrograde in Taurus. So what this means is that Mercury is going to be in Taurus for much longer than it normally is. It'll be there right up until the 11th of June. So we have a long time to work with this energy and to receive the lessons of Mercury in Taurus. Now, in forward motion, generally speaking, wherever Mercury moves, it changes the way we think, the way we communicate. It maybe changes what we are thinking about as well. So Mercury goes into Taurus, we start thinking about our material security, money matters. How are you doing as far as money is concerned? We still have Venus there in Taurus as well. Of course, Uranus doing the long journey there, and the North Node and Juno. And now we also have Sedna on the critical degree at the end of Taurus. This is the Weeping Sisters degree, the degree that can be a bit of a challenge sometimes, but at the same time also shows us what is truly important. We are maybe weeping over the things that we thought were important, that we've had to let go of. But now Sedna has an opportunity to show us something that is far more precious. Uranus anyway is upgrading our values and again changing what we think of as valuable. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on here in Taurus. And so Mercury comes in and says we need to start thinking about all of this, thinking about how I'm going to survive. Taurus is about our survival. So how I'm going to survive in this world. It's a money world, so we have to kind of deal with this sort of thing. But at the same time, it's also about our inner security, thinking about what makes us feel secure. How do we feel about ourselves? Do we truly understand our worth? Do you feel worthy of receiving in life? Do you feel worthy of having? So thinking about these things. Now, Mercury going into Taurus can also slow down the mind. We talk slower. We are encouraged to think before we speak. We kind of want to like a cow, chew the cud, think about things, let it kind of just mull over for a while before we have a conversation about it, before we start making decisions. We need to just think about things. And also mentally, it's a time when we can do with having life just generally a little bit slower to give us the mental space to be able to think. Whilst all that stuff has been going on in Aries and Mercury was in Aries, that's a lot of fast moving energy that's very pushy. Do it now, get it done. That's the kind of sense we get from Aries. But Mercury going into Taurus encourages us just to slow down for a minute, because we need to really get in touch with what is important and to make sure that we're doing what needs to be done to create this security so that we are using our resources wisely. On the 6th of April, we have a full moon in Libra. I will be doing a full Astro Tarot reading for this lunation over on my Patreon, where I delve deep into the symbolism and the messages of this chart. But just for the purposes of this recording, so that we understand what's happening here, of course, the full moon is the peak of the lunar cycle, and it illuminates issues connected with, in this case, Libra, our relationships, harmony, inner harmony, outer harmony, how balanced everything is, how balanced we feel in our lives, diplomacy, the art of compromise. All these things are accentuated with the full moon in Libra, and it's really going to engage with, in an opposition with, Jupiter and Chiron, and of course the Sun. So essentially, this lunation is bringing into awareness the issues that have been ongoing, the work that we've been doing with Jupiter conjunct Chiron. It's almost like now we get some perspective on it, because we're kind of almost like on the outside looking in. Or maybe what's happening here is that someone else, Libra speaks of other people, it also speaks of partnerships. So perhaps somebody else is pointing out something that we missed, that we didn't see, or that we're just not aware of for whatever reason. And that can feel uncomfortable because we are being asked to make some kind of compromise here. And Aries, the opposing sign where the Sun and Chiron and Jupiter are, is not a sign that really likes to compromise. It wants things its own way. But something here is sort of saying, it's great, all the work that you're doing as far as healing is concerned and all the development that you're going through, but something is getting out of balance. So we need to take a moment, just step back. We've actually got a quincunx to Uranus there in Taurus. So again, that invites some kind of different perspective, a different way of seeing things. And this will help us to be able to re-establish some kind of sense of harmony, inner or outer. Mercury enters the shadow zone on the 7th of April. So this just means that Mercury is moving into the area of the chart where it will cover these degrees again. It's going to backtrack to this degree. What it just says to us is that be aware that from now on until we get to the retrograde period, we're going to start to get perhaps some little clues about what we're going to be dealing with during the retrograde period. Now, it might be that it's stuff that's happening in the outer world, or it might be things that you're thinking about. Just pay attention to what you are thinking about, what you are talking about, because some of this material is going to need some kind of reassessment. Venus then enters Mercury's sign, Gemini, on the 11th of April. So Venus is leaving her house, leaving her sign, and moving into a very different quality of sign. Gemini, of course, is an air sign. It is a mutable sign, very different from Taurus, which is earth and fixed. So now we've got some flexibility, and I would say even some lightness that comes through here. Gemini is very much associated with being a sociable sign. So one of the phrases that's often used for Venus in Gemini is a social butterfly, because Venus loves to connect with people. Venus is all about kind of people pleasing and being happy with others and social politeness and let's have fun, and she's all about the love. And Gemini is like, yes, let's spread the love. Let's spread the love around. And sometimes the problem with Venus and Gemini can be that we are kind of doing too much flitting around, and maybe we're not committing in a relationship, or maybe we're not committing to the things that we like because we're curious about all these different wonderful experiences. It's kind of like having a table set with all these different wonderful dishes and cakes and desserts, and it's like, oh, I want to taste all of them. That's kind of Venus in Gemini. She wants to experience all these different things because there's so much to learn from different people. Gemini loves to learn. So yeah, we've got a lightness here, a quality of lightness, but a little bit of frustration at times, perhaps in our communications with relationships. But if we are aware that we need a bit of variety right now in our lives, I don't mean sort of running around with all different people, unless of course you've agreed, and that's cool, that's fine. There are all different kinds of relationships in the world. But if you're kind of struggling in a relationship and things have got a bit bogged down whilst Venus was in Taurus, and you kind of feel like we've got so comfortable, we're not really appreciating each other anymore, perhaps you can bring in something new. So whether it's literally going to school, like you're both learning something, or you both go off and read different books and then talk about those books together, or you just start to talk to different people. You introduce different people into your circle so that you have other things to talk about, or you can have experiences that gives you more variety of things to discuss. Venus going into Gemini is drawn to, attracted to all these different experiences. It needs the variety. You have to have variety with Venus going into Gemini. Now, also on this date, we have the Sun conjunct Jupiter. So again, I kind of get that feeling of lightness because Sun conjunct Jupiter. Yeah, okay, so it is illuminating once again that conjunction with Chiron, but still we can take the blessing from the universe, because the Sun conjunct Jupiter is seen as a very fortunate aspect. It's a yearly occurrence, a yearly opportunity to make our lives bigger and better, because Jupiter, the sky god, he has the big picture in mind, and he's kind of saying, look at all of this, look at the abundance of life. All these different things that you could experience, all these amazing places you could go and things that you could learn, courses you could study. And Venus, of course, is pricking up her ears because she's very interested in that right now. So yeah, learning about the world, understanding ourselves. This is Sun conjunct Jupiter. And sometimes we are gifted with something from the universe, from the gods, or most likely from all the hard work, all the things that we've been pushing ourselves to do, all the healing work that we've been doing. Maybe this is the moment when we see that gift, when we realize there's so much more to us than just our suffering and, all that kind of stuff. We are here and we are present and we are excited, and this is the moment when you sort of realize, yes, if I believe in myself, if I have faith in myself, I really can do anything, obviously within reason, but we can do so much more than we think a lot of the time, especially if we are very caught up in our woundedness, Chiron, if we're very caught up in that, if we're constantly feeling that we're less than other people, that we're faulty, that we're fundamentally flawed. If we believe that, then it's going to hold us back. But with the Sun conjunct Jupiter, there is the potential for stretching our perspective enough for us to see that we are more than all of the wounding and all of the pain, and that there are options now for the future. Jupiter is very future orientated. So how can I make my life bigger and better? These are the opportunities that are available to me. If I take action, if I have strength in myself, if I have the confidence to step forward, if I have the confidence to kind of kick open the doors, make your own luck. We can make our own luck. So it's not about waiting for the universe to rain down blessings upon us. It's about knowing we are already blessed. You are already blessed. How do I know this? Because you're here. You are here. We are here. This is a blessing. I know, and I've done it myself, that when we're going through a difficult time, hard time, painful time, we can feel like this is hell. This is a curse. Coming back here is a curse. But it's not. It's a blessing. It's a gift. And I know sometimes we don't always like the gift, or the gift comes wrapped in something that doesn't look like a gift. But there are gifts in our experience of being here. And I think a lot of it is about a shift of perspective, especially with the Sun conjunct Jupiter. From here, we move into eclipse season. So we're going to have a solar eclipse in Aries. In fact, on the anaretic degree of Aries, the very final degree of Aries. And this is going to be on the 20th of April. Happy birthday to me. The universe is giving me an eclipse on my birthday. So again, I'm going to be doing a much longer piece on this over on my Patreon. But for now, we know that this eclipse is likely to feel very urgent, like there is some kind of urgent mission that needs to be completed. It's almost like a final action that needs to happen here, because this lunation is also square to Pluto. So for the work that we're going to be doing with Pluto, it's like something now needs to happen. It's like, it feels like now or never. Like now or never. It's probably not that extreme. Pluto often ramps up the intensity of things. So we do need to watch that. But I do think there is something here of, sometimes we know what we need to do and we just don't do it. I can say that for myself. But I imagine there's perhaps some of you out there that also feel the same, that you keep getting the same message. You know what needs to be done, but for some reason, you're not doing it. And maybe this eclipse will reveal, because that's what eclipses tend to do. They reveal why you're not doing it, or just what needs to happen, that next step. This is how it is. It shows the reality of this very urgent situation. And then we have that pressure from Pluto, who is saying, you need to change, you need to change, you need to change. It like really feels like this push now. I almost want to say Pluto is giving us a kick up the backside. And this eclipse is really bringing this into view. So yes, it feels urgent. It feels important. It feels potent. But we also have to manage some of that feeling of urgency or impulsiveness, just so that we don't go overboard in whatever is happening here, because eclipses can work in weird ways. And sometimes they can have an element of expect the unexpected as well. So just make sure you give yourself enough breathing space to be able to clearly identify what is happening. Remember, this is just an important new beginning that is centered around personal action, new territory, new opportunities. An important new beginning that is ultimately going to change the future, to change the course of the future, personally and also collectively. So this is why it's a pretty potent eclipse. From there, the sun will quickly then move into Taurus, illuminating Taurus. It's almost like the calm, I want to say the calm after the storm. Maybe that's the right thing to say. I'll just go with that. The calm after the storm. And the sun now illuminates what is important, where we can find some security, where we can find some inner harmony, some ease. What makes things feel easy for you? What helps at the end of the day? What helps you to feel more at ease, more secure within yourself? The sun will illuminate this during Taurus season. And generally speaking, during Taurus season, we are invited to be much more aware of the resources that we hold, whether that is money and our possessions and our investments, or whether it is the inner resources we have, which is certain talents or skills or ways of being that we can use to create a more fruitful life. Now, these Taurus issues are going to be very prominent because on the 21st of April, Mercury will then station retrograde in Taurus. I mentioned this earlier. I will be making a longer video about this so that we have a much clearer idea of what is happening with this retrograde. But just for now, just to know that this is going to be a time when we need to reassess. Again, we're looking at material matters, money, what's coming in, what's going out, how we are spending our money, what we are spending our money on, what else we want to be spending our money on. But it's also looking at our resources, our natural skills and our talents. And again, whether or not we feel valued or valuable. So knowing our self-worth is all connected to what we are earning out there in the world. So Mercury retrograde is really going to be looking at all of this and exploring the idea of whether we feel like we're truly thriving in life. Because yes, it's all very well to survive and be able to keep a roof over your head. But if you're not feeling as though things are developing and growing and flourishing, then that can feel very stuck. We can feel very stuck. So Mercury retrograde will also invite that. And the other thing at the opposite end of the scale is looking at maybe where we've got too comfortable. Because sometimes with Taurus, we can get so comfortable that we don't want to change anything because we don't want to take any risk. So if we've got too comfortable, Mercury going retrograde here will also challenge us about that. Now, on the 24th of April, Jupiter is going to conjoin Eris. So it's kind of interesting. I was just talking about kind of getting too comfortable. And then here is Jupiter magnifying Eris. So Eris is the disruptor. She is a goddess of discordance and disharmony. She is the one that points out the elephant in the room, whether or not you wanted it pointed out. She calls it out. We can't shut her up, especially with Jupiter conjunct Eris, because it makes her voice louder. And maybe that's the point. Maybe we need to hear her. Maybe we've not been listening, or maybe there is someone who has not been heard, so therefore their voice is now being amplified. The problem with Eris is we often demonize her. She's the one causing the problem. She's the one calling out all this stuff. She's the one causing the disruption. But Eris always tells us, these are your triggers. I'm just telling you the truth. If you're getting triggered by that, that is the point. That is the point. There is a trigger there that needs to be addressed. Why are you getting triggered over this situation? So Jupiter may emphasize this. Now, also on the same day as Jupiter conjoins Eris, and we get the magnification of some kind of disharmony or discordance that needs to be dealt with, we're going to have a conjunction between the Sun, Vesta, and the North Node. So the Sun and Vesta joining the North Node. There is some kind of important message coming through here. So we know that the North Node in Taurus has been pushing for us to develop these Taurus energies. In other words, simplicity, calm, being grounded, being practical, being more secure emotionally and physically. It's encouraged us to move away from the toxicity of the South Node, of power games and not really sharing ourselves or sharing our stuff with others. And it's also invited us to know where our power lies and to use our power in ways that are constructive and healing and kind. So the North Node in Taurus being joined by the Sun and Vesta really feels like this peak moment, because the Sun, of course, is just illuminating, hey, this is the way to go. So whilst we're feeling super triggered, Jupiter conjunct Eris, we get this, here is the way to go. This is the way forward. This is what you need to be doing, or this is what you need to focus on. Vesta. Vesta shows us what is absolutely sacred, what must be concentrated on. And she's concentrating all this energy, this karmic story that is unfolding here. So we really need to be open to following the path. Again, going back to Jupiter conjunct Eris, this sense of feeling so triggered and angry and annoyed with something that's going on here that is challenging what we believe. Jupiter, what we believe. It's challenging our truth. And we don't like it when our truth is challenged. But at the same time as that is happening, we're getting a huge light bulb. I'm seeing in my imagination as I'm speaking this image of Jupiter and Eris, like they're being really shouty and they're really distracting and really annoying. You just want them to shut up. And at the same time, seeing this light that just keeps beeping like a lighthouse that's calling us. It's calling us. And suddenly, when you look back at Eris and Jupiter, you realize that actually what they were saying made a lot of sense. And suddenly, when you really, really listen to them, it's like it fires you up. And you sort of feel like, yes, now I know exactly what I need to do. Wow. And then the whole stage is illuminated and the fireworks are going off. It kind of feels like that. Almost like every single spirit guide has just gone, thank God for that. They finally got their message. It finally went in. Excellent. Round of applause. Here we go. So this is how this chart is feeling. The North Node conjunct the Sun. This is the way to go for your spiritual development, for you, your special path, which involves your sacred duty, Vesta, knowing your purpose. There is an element of knowing your purpose with this conjunction between the Sun, Vesta, and the North Node. I want to point out the Sabain symbol. It's a rather uncomfortable one. It is a widow at an open grave. Clearly, that brings in some very distressing imagery. And I just want to immediately state that this Sabain symbol is not saying this or that will happen. It is saying, let's just look at this imagery. What is happening here? A widow clearly has lost their partner. So they are now alone, but the grave is open. The grave is open. So something has not been put to rest. And if we haven't put something or someone to rest, then that can mean that our grieving process is stalled. We're stuck. We're stuck in the death. Go back to the South Node in Scorpio. We're stuck in the death process. Now, I know, having lost people in my life that I loved dearly, that grief never ends in that way. We don't stop loving that person. It doesn't fade away. It doesn't get better. But we do learn to live with it. And so it doesn't consume us from the inside out. And instead, that experience, instead of destroying us, it provides us with a richness, a depth of experience and appreciation for life that maybe wasn't there before, or has just deepened that which was there before. This is what I've personally found, that death in all its forms is, as Scorpio would suggest, the fertilizer for life, for truly thriving and appreciating every single moment. Taurus is about being truly present, being here, not trying to control everything. Scorpio, it's about being present with what is and letting go of that need for control, because we can't control everything anyway. How do we live with death? That is one of the questions that is happening here. I know it's a little bit heavy, but sometimes the astrology encourages us to go there. How do we live with death? Now, it might be the death of people in our lives, but of course we have death of situations in our lives. How do we deal with endings of a relationship? How do we deal with having to move away from somewhere we didn't want to move away from? How do we deal with the end of a job or a much-loved career? How do we deal with retirement or our kids leaving home? These are all deaths of some kind. So the widow at the open grave here, in this Sabain symbol of this conjunction between the Sun, the North Node and Vesta, is asking us to look at what have we not put to rest, because that is like a raw and open wound, and we need to find a way to make peace with that. It's not always easy, but we need to find some kind of closure. And finding that closure will mean that we are able then to truly follow this path and commit ourselves, dedicate ourselves to our soul's mission that we came here to do, because we don't want to get stuck in the past and kind of halt to the mission. The mission is important. So finding closure, and that can be painful, but once we find a way to do that, then it really opens everything up. It opens up our lives, it opens up our hearts, it opens up our spirituality. It allows us to follow the path. This concludes my reading for April 2023. If you would like to hear more from me and support this channel, I do have a Patreon. I will link it below. If you are not already a subscriber here on YouTube, please do click that subscription button and do the notification bell thing, because it helps the algorithms. In the meantime, I hope you found this reading helpful, and I wish you many blessings on your path.